Ladies and gentlemen, Hajj Flemings.
Good morning. How's everybody doing today? So great to see everybody today. I'm very excited to be with a colleague and to be with a friend. I want to welcome you to Detroit Homecoming, hosted by Cranes. We believe that this is probably going to be one of the most impactful conversations that you're going to hear today. So what I want to do is I want to first introduce Telva McGruder. So she is the Chief Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Officer at GM. Welcome.
Thank you, Hajj. Great to be here this morning.
And I want to welcome Dennis Archer Jr., who is the CEO of the Ignition Media Group and Archer Corporate Services.
Thanks, Hajj.
All right. So again, my name is Hajj Flemings. I'm the founder of Rebrand Cities and the Rebrand Black Accelerator. I want to frame our conversation really quick. I know we're kind of tight on time, and then I want to make sure that we spend plenty of time talking to these amazing thought leaders. So May 25th, 2020, there was a tragic event that happened. George Floyd was murdered. And there were a lot of companies that rushed to make public statements and announcements. But I want to lean into an open letter from Mary Barra, which I thought was very, very profound. She wrote a letter to suppliers, employers, employees, and dealers. And there's two words that really stood out to me. And it was impatient and disgusted as it relates back to the events with George Floyd. And so as we lean into this conversation today, I want to start with you, Telva. We know that GM is the only automotive automaker that is based out of the city of Detroit. The city of Detroit is approximately 88.5% African American. Would love to be able to hear your thoughts as it relates back to how does this shape the work that you do and the work that GM does in terms of creating a stronger city and a city that is for all people and that includes all people.
Absolutely. GM is more than proud to be headquartered in Detroit. And we care about this city, and we care about the people in the city and the entrepreneurs and the children that are in school in the city of Detroit. And so when we think about our quest right now and our aspiration to become the most inclusive company in the world, we are absolutely thinking about how we can take that journey and spread it not only within our company, but outside of our company into the city. We're focused on economic development, educational empowerment, certainly healthcare, as well as policy considerations. So when we look at our journey and the decisions that we're making, we look at the city and we say, what can we do? Our commitment to Detroit has been longstanding, and as you know, we just committed another $50 million to nonprofits in the city.
Okay.
Yes. And we are super excited, frankly, about everything that's coming to us and the choices that we get to make and the partnerships we're going to be able to form in order to drive the improvement that we want to see in the city.
Gotcha. So as a follow-up question, I know this panel is really focused on GM becoming the most inclusive company in the world. So how do we lean into that, or what is GM doing as it relates back to that? Because that's a really audacious goal.
It is. It's a huge aspirational goal, but we know that the journey starts with the first step, and we are on the journey to become the most inclusive company in the world. And we're doing work inside of our company with our team members, of course, working on inclusion, working on understanding how we're working together and how we can make better decisions together and more inclusively with greater understanding of each other and of each other's talents and skills. But what's really important is that work that we're doing as an internal team is going to be infused into everything we do in our business. So we're working hard on DEI maturity so that it falls into our products, our services, our work in the community. And so that as our thinking evolves, which it is already doing and which it will continue to do along this journey, and we look at decisions in the community with partnerships in cities like Detroit, we will see all the opportunity that awaits, and we will lean into it in ways that we haven't done before, right? So that's really what's most exciting about this journey, because it's really about an evolution. It's really about maturity. And as you know, in anything that you're working on that you mature on, the decisions that you make become reflective of that work, of that inclusion, and the commitment to the people in the city and to empowering them and growing them.
Yeah, yeah. And I think it's important that it's not just something that's done, I guess, like tongue in cheek, right? It's something where we're actually looking for measurable outcomes and being able to make a difference. So Dennis, as I jump over to you, you are a part of Detroit history, right? So your father was a 2-term mayor in the city of Detroit. And when I think about people who have this amazing balance in terms of being able to make an impact in the city, working with corporations, but I also think about the magazine work you have done historically, the amazing restaurant that you have. I think you are a person who is tapped into the culture. And so what I'd be interested to hear from you is your thoughts as it relates back to GM's initiative about the IBA, you know, the Inclusion Advisory Board and some of the work that's being done. And do you feel as though you're going to be able to hit those guiding principles or the mission of what that's focused on?
Sure. First of all, thanks for having me. Go Blue, whoever's in town for Michigan game. You know, when Mary first made these announcements, I actually sent her an email or text, I don't remember, and said, hey, I want to be part of whatever you're doing.
Okay.
And, you know, some time had gone by and she reached out and said, all right, we're forming this board. Are you still interested? And I said, yes. And here's why I said yes. A lot of people may be familiar with, I think it was Fannie Lou Hamer who said, I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired. And Black folk are sick and tired of the roller coaster of something happening publicly, and then organizations and politicians and businesses make these proclamations, and then time goes by and people forget about what happened and they fall off of their promises. I was confident that Mary Barra was not going to be one of those people. I was confident. My gut told me from seeing how she had led the GM organization when she ascended to be the leader there. I was familiar with her work as a board member, quite simply, at Detroit Country Day, where our kids go to school. I was confident she was going to be that leader that followed through. And then as we began to participate on the board, and I started to see the level of participation, when we have these board meetings, Mary is on the phone or on the Zoom, as it were, thus far, for the entirety. She's not putting the screen on black to check her phone. There's no assistant coming in reminding her of a meeting. She is focused. Mark Royce is on those calls, and he is focused. And they have a team of people, Telva among them, who are very focused on this work. And the challenge, as I know it, dealing with a large corporation, is that you cannot boil the ocean. It's going to take time. So people to say, hey, you know, Mary made an announcement last summer, you know, is the proof in the pudding yet? You got to give her and the organization time. But day in and day out, there was work happening. And that is that intentionality and the rigor and the measure is what's going to make it work across society. It's one thing for a leader to get up and say, hey, you know, we're concerned about this and we're going to do something. It's another for the leader to be vulnerable and say, this is what our goals are, and then to be held accountable for those goals. And that means whether you have a 50-person restaurant or 500,000 people at GM, leaders have to be held accountable, and that accountability has to be passed down all the way down to the frontline worker.
Yeah, yeah. And I think also, too, just you wanting to attach your name to something like that, knowing that there could be impact that comes, you know, then actually that comes from that, right?
Sure. I mean, absolutely. There are those people that say, oh, you're siding with big corporations. But unless you have somebody on the inside, you're not going to be able to effectuate change. And so I'm confident enough in myself and my personal position and beliefs to know that I can operate on the inside, but still have my ear to and protect those in the streets. And I think that you referenced earlier, I think that, you know, my background and brief history as an entrepreneur indicates that I've been able to do that.
Yeah, and it's really important for General Motors to have external voices like yours and others that are on the board to really, you know, give us straight talk about what we need to focus on, the work that we need to do. You know, yes, we see the improvement, and yes, we're reaching for more. And that constant, continuous improvement is the atmosphere that we have on the board, and we just continue to raise the bar. So it's not okay if we don't have people like Dennis that are on our board that are willing to say, hey, GM, are we paying attention to this, and how are we thinking about this, and let's talk about it.
Yeah, no, I think it's important, to have people who are close, who have the ear to the ground, and not just have insiders, right? You have to have somebody who's on the outside. It's kind of the theory and practice kind of thing. People who are actually doing the actual work, which, so kind of leads me to our next question. So I know that there was a lot of conversation online as it relates back to media companies. And I know GM has done a tremendous job in terms of kind of going down this path. And I want to kind of set this up. Lots of times you have companies or organizations, when we talk about like diversity, we always talk about the pipeline issue. And in 2016, Facebook famously said, we don't have enough diverse employees because of the public education system, right? And so it's always an opportunity to go blame everybody else. So what I'd like to hear from you is to give us some insight in terms of some of the things that GM has done and some of the improvement that you're already starting to see in terms of identifying diverse media companies, Black-owned media companies, in terms of being able to do work with them.
Yeah, it's a great point you make about pipeline. Whether you're talking about talent or you're talking about companies, a lot of times it's an easy excuse to say, well, they're just not there, they're just not ready, and things of that nature. And on the surface, that may be true. Mm-hmm. And that's why this work is hard work. That's why this work means you have to dig in and you have to understand, okay, what's really going on. So certainly we had a lot of conversation going on earlier this year about Black-owned and diverse-owned media. And GM was already on the path to invest more in Black-owned media. And through that conversation, we stepped back and we said, what we know for sure is that what we need to do is invest in the infrastructure so that Black-owned and diverse-owned media can grow and develop. It's not just about forming a partnership and doing what we can with where everyone is at. It's more about meeting diverse-owned and Black-owned media companies where they are and helping them grow. So the $50 million that we committed to the incubator fund mm-hmm. is going to help us build that infrastructure in partnership with the companies that come to us with really exciting ideas. And so far that's going really well. We shared that plan and we've been meeting with those companies and we have a very positive outlook at this time. And we'll be able to heal some of the holes and wounds that exist.
Yeah, Hajj, I think Carla Walker Miller either spoke before or was speaking after, but she said something on the panel a few days ago, which is interesting. First of all, there are a ton of talented, financially capable Black media companies, minority and women-owned media companies. Mm-hmm. And Carla said something in response to somebody saying, well, we can't find any Black women. First of all, we're in Detroit. and then she went on to say, she says, you're acting like finding a Black woman in Detroit is like trying to find a white Siberian tiger running through downtown Detroit. I mean, it's not that hard. And there are plenty, I thought it was a good one too. There are plenty of talented, Hispanic, Black, women-owned media companies, just like there are great, talented Black law firms, accounting firms, other service providers, auto suppliers. The problem, strike that. The opportunity mm-hmm. is to break through the relationships. And they are strongest often in that advertising space, where people who have come up through the ranks in the marketing sales divisions in companies have relationships with agencies. Those people leave to go to another company. They take that favorite agency with them. And the reason why having a leader of your organization, whether it is the mayor of the city, the governor of the state, or the CEO of General Motors, is that leader has to recognize what those challenges are and has to charge her leadership team to push down through the organizations to overcome those challenges. Invite somebody just to participate in an RFP process. Instead of giving a company extension after extension after extension, put their business out for bid. I mean, I say all the time, when I go to a new company, I met somebody from ExxonMobil a few days ago. My goal with them is only to go in and be allowed to bid on the work, because I'm confident that my business, albeit Black-owned or not, will be able to compete. Mm-hmm. Oftentimes, we're not even allowed to compete. We're not even in the room. So let us in the room and allow us to compete, and you'll be shocked at the innovation, the cost savings and the flavor that we can bring to your company.
No, I think,
Yeah.
All right, go ahead.
Yeah, and let me just add real quick. I mean, that's why the work on inclusion is so important, because it's teaching every member of the organization that you have a role to play in creating that future that Dennis just talked about. You know, you can make that decision. We empower our team members at the company. And so as they think inclusively, they say, hey, we can look at this differently. We can put this out for bid. We can see, you know, who else is out there, what other companies might be able to join us as we work to move forward with the next level of technology and all of the work that we're doing at GM that's really changing the auto industry.
Yeah, I mean, and there's plenty of data that shows that the outcomes from, you know, diverse companies and diverse boards, the outcomes are overwhelming. And so the data is there. It's always interesting, you know, to me, where we are able to identify customers from a certain community to buy products, but then we can't find the talent to be able to either to source projects to, or opportunities, or to hire. And so I find that somewhat disheartening, because the people are obviously there. So Dennis, you know, so what I want to kind of, you know, shift to a little bit. I know you, among the many companies that you run, Ignition Media Company is one of the companies, right? And so I want to lean a little bit into the conversation between the difference between ownership of a medium and the audience that it serves. And I want to share this quote real quick. So it's a quote from Ludacris's manager. And he says, "We're often the oil, but never the machine. Often the oil, but never the machine." I heard it, you know, from James Andrews. So it speaks to the fact that we're typically the talent, but not part of the infrastructure or the platform. So I would love to be able to hear your thoughts as it relates back to this ownership piece, which I think is critically important.
That's an interesting point. So we have a client that shall remain nameless who asked us to look at and help them with their spend, and in defending what they've done before in terms of hiring diverse media companies, they started showing all this talent that they're writing checks to, this athlete, this entertainer. And I had to look at them and say, that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about media companies. We're talking about those that do production, those that buy advertising, those that are advertising agencies in this space. And so what happens now, and what Hajj is referencing to, is that oftentimes a large corporation will say, okay, big global agency, will you do a separate commercial for us and put some Black people in it, or put some Hispanic people in it? So take the same spot basically that you're doing for general market and throw a little color in it. And then now we got our Black targeted spot. And I'm not going to sit here and say that all Black people know about Black people more than someone else does, because that's not the point here. The point is, if you are really trying to do business with people that support your organization, then you have a responsibility to help grow those businesses. And so, you know, in this instance, yeah, you should go get a Black advertising agency to help round out what you're doing. You should go get an Hispanic-owned agency, but it's not necessarily rooted solely in the fact that they'll know it better. It's rooted in the fact that you hopefully can assume that if we hire Dennis is going to hire more people that look like him. He's going to be philanthropically involved in the community in which he lives and works, which is going to provide value. His C-suite is going to be more diverse, and that is going to help society, and that is going to help balance things out. That's going to provide a pathway for entrepreneurship for others who may not have it if it weren't for Dennis or Hajj or any other minority Black entrepreneur having that opportunity. That's why companies should be doing this.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Also, I know we're getting close on time, but I know even backstage, we're having a conversation about the nuances that even happen in terms of having those people at the table. Like, I've looked at ads and I've seen African Americans in there, and the guy looked ashy, right? Or I'll look at an H&M. Like, I mean, honestly, I've looked at the first thing that I saw, and it told me that there wasn't somebody at the table that had color in there.
You got me looking at my ankles, man. You know.
It takes both, right?
Yes.
It takes the oil and it takes the machine.
Yes.
So team members that are on the team that can contribute, as well as owners, as well as leaders that can lead in the right direction. It takes all of that. And we have to think deeper. We have to think about that impact. You know, that's what you were talking about, Dennis, is, you know, think about the economic impact and that ripple effect of impact, and how it might manifest depending on the decisions that are being made.
Gotcha. So I know we're getting close to the end, but what I want to do is I want to hit this question with you, Telva. Okay. So I know that there's a shift in the automotive industry. I know there's a lot of conversation that relates back to EV. And so there's a $25 million investment into the Climate Equity Fund. And I want to kind of set this up. So when we think about climate change and think about pollution, it disproportionately impacts the Black community, Indigenous community, Latin community, and low-income communities. So I'm really curious to be able to see, how does this play out in terms of the investment that GM has made?
Yeah, the reason that we created the Climate Equity Fund is so that as we move into this all-electric future, this change in the automotive industry that we're leading right now, that we do it well, and that we are cognizant of exactly what you just said as we move into the all-electric future. It would be easy for a company like ours, as big as ours, as globally impactful as ours, to move forward and create our electric vehicles and leave people behind that are in the inner cities, right? That are in the communities that you mentioned, or in rural communities. So we have to move with intent. The Climate Equity Fund is our acknowledgement that moving with intent and bringing all communities with us so that everyone is in requires that we invest so that we can decrease barriers, so that we can make sure that we have charging available to people regardless of where they live, so that we can make sure that the different mobility options are available to people regardless of where they live. We understand that people are at different socioeconomic levels, and so we need to understand those, and we need to work with community organizations in partnership that are committed to creating the change that we want to see equitably as we move forward into this all-electric future. And so that's really what this fund is all about. And we're already seeing some benefit from some great partnerships that we're looking to move forward with, right? Because we need to be smarter, and we need to work with the community to get there. We aren't going to pretend that we know everything.
Gotcha. So I know we're close to wrapping up, but before we go, I know we have a closing question for Dennis in terms of his experience on being on the IAB, but also too, if there's any closing thoughts that both of you have, I want to be able to hear that, and I'll share our work with GM, and we'll watch a video, and then it'll be a wrap.
So over there, I'm getting cut. Okay. So I think your video is probably not going to happen, but I would just say that my experience on the IAB has been phenomenal. And from a closing comment, I can say it no better than John Tuttle, who's a Wolverine, who's the chief operating officer, I got to keep throwing it in, of the New York Stock Exchange. He said in a panel a couple of days ago that if you are not taking action or talking about diversity in your business, then you're going out of business. Gotcha.
And again, like, I want to have a chance just to talk about like the work that we did, and it was with GM or with Cadillac. So we did something called Rebrand Black. It was an accelerator. We worked with 12 amazing businesses in the city of Detroit after the George Floyd situation. We're able to give $50,000 to businesses. Athletic, which is connecting athletes or college athletes and brands. A woman-owned cosmetic company called For Her Cosmetics, and Narrowway Cafe on the Avenue of Fashion, one of the top 5 Black coffee shops in the United States, gave away $50,000. 3 of the businesses from our accelerator are competing for the $1 million for Detroit Demo Day today at Athletic, Detroit Made, and Narrowway Cafe. So I wanted to be able to share that. So,
all right. I think we're done.
Okay.
Thank you.
I think we're done. Thank you.
They've teamed up with Cadillac to assist 12 businesses with coaching and peer learning opportunities.
Rebrand Black is the name of the program, accelerator, and pitch competition.
Cadillac's commitment to the community is evident in this program because it serves as the connective tissue in how we give back. It's one thing to say that you want to partner with the community, but what we know at Cadillac is allyship is a verb. So this was evident in our outreach with Hajj Flemings and the Rebrand Cities program and working with the fellow cohorts of the program.